Hey team, Glenn here. Welcome back to Mayhem Mondays on the Building Better Humans Project podcast.
Hello, everybody. Good morning.
Again, I just want to say thank you to everyone sending through questions. I'm really enjoying this format because I like to think out loud, and I know you do as well.
Yeah.
And we like to challenge ourselves with things. You know, you've seen me do public speaking engagements, and I love the end where people get to ask questions and we workshop an answer right then and there. Not because I've got the answers, but because when people brainstorm together and you verbalise, an answer's come out. So, but on a personal level, I've loved doing these with you.
Yeah, me
obviously,
too.
because we have conversations like this, maybe a little bit more hectic at times in the car because it's just us, but I love that we can just talk about stuff and answer questions for people.
Me too.
And as long as people are getting value out of it, hey, that's a win.
Yeah. I thought for this episode, I would just do a very short, brief intro on myself for those of you who don't know who I am and just only see a picture of me on your socials. And then I'll go through a few questions on our NGL link that were just asked specifically to me, but I'd like you to obviously weigh in on those as well as somebody who's my closest person in my life, apart from my children. So I'm a mum of two. I grew up in Papua New Guinea. I've got two boys. I spent 14 years of my life in Papua New Guinea, and actually got a question, so maybe this person knows that I'm from PNG because it's a lot of what we run on my socials and yours. You look half white. What's your other half? Correct. I'm half white. My mother is English, so she grew up in the UK. Then she spent 25 to 30 years of her life in Papua New Guinea, married to my father. So that's an unusual one because growing up, usually the dad was white and the mum was Papua New Guinean because a lot of white men would come to Papua New Guinea to start businesses or you know, whatever it was. Maybe they got brought over specifically for that and then they got married into the country. So, you know, it was always a different thing for me growing up when they'd be like, oh, your mum's white. Yeah, my mum's white. So my mum, she spent a lot of her years living, you know, village life with my dad. You know, she's very, very ingrown into the country. She can speak Tok Pisin, which is the local language. She knows everything about Pacific Islander culture. She actually speaks quite a few languages, so she's very impressive in that way. So shout out to Linda. I know you're watching. I know you're listening. Hey, Linda, how you doing? So mum of two. I'm from Papua New Guinea. It's my whole identity. I love Papua New Guinea. I'm very proud of where I come from. I've never even been to the UK. Mum's never taken me back there. Again, Linda, you're listening.
Also, Linda, she's still waiting for that bike.
Yeah, Mum told me that I was going to get a bike when I turned 15. And my father's passed away now, so he passed away when I was 14. And then all these years later, I asked Mum, I said, oh, you told me that you were going to buy me a bike when I was 15. And this lady reckons, ask your dad. I was like, Mum, that is wild. Dad's not here. Dad's no longer with us. That is not nice. So I'm a professional athlete. I box for a living. I also represent Papua New Guinea in the amateur scene. So I'm going back to PNG in July, end of July for Papua New Guinea Nationals. And hopefully that's a qualifier for Oceania Games and Com Games. So I would love nothing more than to represent my country in the sport of boxing, which is the sport that I have chosen. I'm also a personal trainer. I spent 6-7 years of my life being a personal trainer. I do that online currently, and we also delve into youth work. We are currently working on a youth reform and youth housing company. There's lots about me, but yeah, so that's a brief one.
The questions today are about you, or ones are aimed at you?
They're aimed at me. So some of them are about me. Some of them are, you know, like, let's go into this one. Straight into it, you know.
We're going the hard ones first?
Yeah, hard ones first. You know, my primary school teacher used to say, do the hard ones first and then go back to the easy ones. No, he said it the other way around. All right. Do you ever feel like you're not good enough as a mum? I struggle with this all the time as a single mum. Life is so effing hard sometimes. 100%. A lot of my time is spent worrying about whether I am good enough as a mum. It makes me emotional even just thinking about it. Can you speak?
Well, I mean, I'm biased in the sense that I think you're a phenomenal mum.
Thank
you. I've sat with you many times when you're trying to achieve big things, and someone asked us this question last week, and can peace and chasing goals coexist or something along those lines? And And it's hard because there are definitely times where the boys are at an age where they're selfish, of course, because everything in their world is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And so when you have to say no to something as drastic as a skate park, which you've done 4 times that week, then they'll go like, why not? Why not? And I'll say, well, I've got to do some work there. Yeah. Bring your laptop down and just do the work.
Yeah, they always solve your problems for you, which is very admirable.
And so I've definitely seen you question yourself. But then I also think if you don't keep chasing your goals and dreams, and you're going to hate yourself for that too. And I've watched people spend 18 or 20 years just about their kids, husbands and wives, mums and dads. And then at the end of that, they barely know each other. They don't know who they are individually because, well, I don't know, my whole life's been about this human or these humans and not about myself. And they lose themselves. And I make a lot of my business before I started going down the youth path, sitting with those people, trying to work out where they got stuck. Because when people hit their late 30s, early 40s, it's like, I don't know what my life's about. I've had people say to me, I don't know what I'm passionate about. Like, you must know. It's just buried so deep. And so, particularly for mums, when I ask them, you know, who you are, they're a mum, and then they're a wife or a partner, and then and somewhere who they are is down the bottom, if they even remember.
Yeah.
And I understand that that's admirable, but it's also okay to delve into it and develop who you are.
Yeah.
But
You
most
said to
mums
me,
don't feel like they're good
you
mums.
said to me last week, you know, most of being a parent, we tell children, you know, you can do anything, you can chase your goals, go and do it, you know, work hard, blah, blah, blah. But they have to actually watch that from you as well.
Yeah.
So
how often do you tell a kid, like, they learn to ride a bike and they fall off, get up and go again, get up and go again? But we don't do that ourselves.
Yeah.
And if you really want something, go after it, you can do it. You know, and then they talk themselves down and we talk them back up.
Yeah.
But we don't do it to ourselves.
Yeah.
So it is important to find your identity.
Yeah. 100%. I can definitely empathize, though. Being a single mum is very, very hard.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you've done that. You've done all that stuff and you've had all that hard road. There are things that in Mili's life that, like, I've been around some pretty tough situations in my life, but I don't know many people that have been through what you have, and you do not play victim.
Nah.
Which is interesting because I've been around people that have also had tough-ish lives, maybe less or more, and they run the full victim story.
Yeah.
I know people that have not had tough lives who run the full victim story.
Yeah.
And the problem with your story is you get to keep it.
Yeah.
No one's trying to change it. That's your story. You get to own it. And the more times you tell it, the more it becomes real.
And
So, that's not you.
I'll give Linda credit for raising me in a way where things could always be worse. She always told me that.
Which you hated at the time.
I did hate at the time, but I fully understand where she was coming from. You know, I have been through a lot of things, and in the back of my mind, there was always things could always be worse. Things could always be worse. Things could always be worse. And it's what actually got me up in the morning to keep going.
Yeah.
So, And then I think this is part 2 of that question. What do you hope your children learn from you as a life skill to get up and keep going? To be honest, yeah, that's what I hope that they learn from me. Work hard for the things that you want. You know, put yourself up there in the first as well.
But also, I think, here's me thinking what you would want, based off who you are, is to not allow people's judgment, real or perceived, to control what you decide to do with your life.
That's a biggie
Because
for me.
everyone's going to judge you.
Everyone judges. Everyone has something to say.
At some level, and it might not be a harsh judgment. It might just be you making when you first see someone, you have to make an opinion of them based off what you know as to whether they're in your circle, out of your circle, whatever. Like, it's everyone we walk past, we're just scanning. And so it's not necessarily that they're sitting there just judging on you. You're not that important, as you always say.
Yeah, I do.
But we all
say that.
feel judged.
Yeah.
And you want your kids to have a crack at something, even if I might be embarrassed. What if I'm not good at this? Well, you're probably not going to be the first time.
And then this ties on to the next question. How do you juggle being a professional athlete and a mum? How can you possibly have time for both? Make time, man. That's all I can say about that. So, you know, we do things like wake up extra early and train at that time when the kids are not even awake. And then we train also during the day, maybe when they're at school. If you don't have that option because you have your kids a lot, I'm sure kids have a nap. I'm sure kids have their own spare time that you can go and do something.
It's not easy, let's be honest.
It's really,
not
really
easy,
not, you
but
know.
nothing worth achieving is easy.
Nah, not at all. Or we train after hours when the kids are back in bed, or maybe they're just chilling on their iPad and they don't really want anything to do with you.
We've set up a gym at home. We've got assault bikes and rowers and weights. And, yeah, it's not if you're paying for a gym, it wouldn't be ideal.
Yep.
But if it's in your home, like last night, Millie was doing a strength session and she normally will go to a gym. And I said, so what time are you doing that? And she said, I'm just going to do it at home.
Yeah.
Because we've got enough and I just have to modify some exercises. So you make do.
I found gyms with creches when the kids were too little to, I did a bodybuilding comp when Mali was still breastfeeding, and so I found a gym with a creche, and I wanted to be some sort of athlete, and so I did that. Bodybuilding wasn't for me, so we moved on to boxing.
I love a good quote, and so my quote to answer this would be, there's one that says, do the best you can with what you have where you are.
Yeah.
And then when your situation changes, then you can do better. But do the best you can with what you have where you are. So many of us say we want a thing, but we're not doing the best we can with what's... Because this is what I want and this is what I need to achieve it, but I've only got this. Well, then do 100% with that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'll wait until I've got this. Well, you might not have that. You might not have the most amount of time. And the other thing to that timing is you don't find time very often, you create it. You can find time. Find time to me is go through your schedule and see where you're wasting hours.
Make the time.
And then you create the time from
that.
Yeah, because you're doing something with that time.
Yeah. And I will say that I didn't start boxing until a little bit later because the kids were too little for me to become a professional athlete, which was my goal. So I guess you got to assess where you are in life versus your goal and see if they are attainable.
I think you also need to have a partner, if you've got a partner, and assuming you have, who is able to support that goal as well. And if it's not a partner, friends, mums and dads, you need to be surrounded by people that support the goal, even if they don't see it. Yeah. So for a lot of male partners or your mum or dad, or to see a woman in particular getting punched in the face, it might go, that's not the sport. I would prefer you didn't do that, but that's cool. You can have the opinion, but I am going to do it and I'd love your support when I do it. Because there are no lone wolves. We all think we are. You're probably as close as it comes in the sense that you would do what it takes to get to where you're trying to get to, definitely. But surely having a supportive partner helps.
Yeah.
It just happens to be we're in the same sport.
Yeah, it really does. I really, really appreciate all the support that you give me. Like, it's paramount to the things that I am able to achieve. So,
And I try and clear the path for you. There are things that we do, as in I'll do a lot of things around the house just to create time for you. And there are times when we've had conflict around our relationship, if I can just, and you'll say, I can do all that stuff for myself. That's not how I need you to show me love. And I understand that. But I also think what I'm trying to do is create space for you to be the athlete. So it's not, that stuff isn't just about love, even if I communicate it wrong. Sometimes it's not just about, hey, I've done all these things for you. And I know I've kind of implied that at times and it's wrong, because that's not what I mean. But what I mean is I'm creating as much space for Millie as I can to be the best athlete that she can be. And sometimes if that means, like, I like to get up and run a routine in the morning, as you know. I like to get up, and by the time the boys get out of bed, I like to have lunches done and uniforms and boom, and then I get them out of bed and they're marching and then Millie can just train.
Yeah.
Whereas previous, you're training at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to fit stuff in. Particularly as a single mum, like that's the stuff you have to do. Well, not as a single mum even, but as a mum with a partner who might work or whatever. So
you got to make the time.
Yeah,
That's,
and you've got to have your circle's got to be on board.
Yeah,
it helps. You can do it without them, but it helps to have them.
But then we take the kids to training. Sometimes they want to come, sometimes they don't want to come. But then when they don't want to come, it's like, please, I really need you to support me on this. And then we do things like we'll find a place where they can play too. So one of the places that we go and do my swim is right next to a skate park. So they'll just run across and go to the skate park and we'll go and swim and do our thing. Then we'll come back and we'll spend another hour with them at the skate park.
There's nothing perfect. There's nothing ideal.
Nah.
We just make do with the best we can with what's available to us.
Yeah. And it's rough sometimes, but I'm really hoping that by doing this, I'm showing the kids that these are the things that you have to do. Because I've asked Marley, do you want to be a footy player when you grow up? Yeah, I do. This is what you got to do, man. Like, I know you're a little bit too young to understand it, but this is what you're going to have to do.
So if he ever does go that way, at least he's been, exposed to that. He's going to have witnessed that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I watch my parents work very hard for the things that, we were able to have. And so they worked a lot. Mum and Dad both worked a lot. And I guess that's where I got my work ethic from. Dad put me through work experience at his when I was young, and then when I was 13, and a little bit, or maybe almost 14, or we were in Australia and, we didn't have much money, and Mum's like, if you want pocket money, you got to go work. So
you used to walk to Hungry Jack's, walk home at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah,
or something, which is crazy as a 14-year-old
that is pretty
girl.
wild. And like at the time, because I came from Papua New Guinea, I was like, oh, this is safe as compared to where I'm from. But walking through White Rock, if you know in Cairns, is not ideal. But I managed to do it, and yeah, that's just what we did.
Yeah.
All right, why did you start boxing? This is a little bit of a long one, but I'll try and keep it as brief as I can. I've always been active, always been sporty, always climbing trees. When I was young, I had a little six-pack going. And then, I've always been pretty good at doing anything physical or being in a sport. So I played basketball, soccer, netball, and I was and sprinting. I've always been really, really good at athletics and athleticism.
Hyper-competitive.
Yeah, well.
At everything. It's not negative.
Can I finish my story? Yeah, so like I said before, I did bodybuilding when I started going to the gym when Sam was little. I did a bodybuilding comp and then I realized it wasn't for me. This is absolutely no shade on bodybuilding. It is such hard work. However, for me, ultimately, it came down to what you look like. Your shoulders, your blood. And it really, really does take a lot of hard work to get to what you look like. But then when you stand on stage, it's your stage presence, it's your smile, it's your walkout, it's how pretty you are. And I could be wrong, but this is what I've been told by bodybuilding coaches. Sometimes it comes down to if the girl was prettier than you. I just didn't have any interest in that. I wanted to showcase my athleticism by moving and by doing stuff, by being in such a pressure situation. And then in my teenage years, I'd done Muay Thai, a bit of Jiu-Jitsu, delved into a bit of combat sports. And then I realized I just love boxing. So I just wanted to do boxing. So when the kids got old enough to sort of, I guess, sort themselves out in some sort of ways, then I decided that I'd try and take up competitive boxing. So that's why I started.
And if you love pressure cookers, combat sports are pressure cookers.
Man.
There's no second, third, fourth place. There's a winner and there's a loser, and that's what it is.
Yeah. And it's one of the most ultimate ways to test yourself. And I love a challenge. So that's why I started boxing.
Awesome.
Yeah. What subs do I take? There's a whole list, but I'll stick to the main ones. Creatine, collagen. That's pretty much supplements-wise that you could say, because I don't really drink protein shakes or anything like that. I'll have that. I don't know if you guys know it. Again, not sponsored. Rockaby is the brand. And it's a protein shake that you can get from the servo. So I just have that one. That's for convenience sake only, but I like to get my protein from normal food if I can. And then I take vitamins, vitamin D, calcium. There's a whole long list. I might even put it on my socials just because I can't think of it off the top of my head. But
Mili's a really good cook too. So one of the things I experienced when we started living together, or even when I started coming over, was that you cook everything from scratch. And that's unusual for people when they're busy in particular. We live in a society where it comes out of a tin. You cook everything from scratch. It doesn't matter what it is. Every piece of it, you generally cook from scratch. And I've actually learned a bit about just basic cooking myself as a result of that. And it's a way of controlling what goes into your body because you don't know what's in all the processed stuff. And I'm not bagging it because I eat it. I'm just saying that when you can cook everything from scratch, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah, I love cooking. I love food. I love cooking. It's
the other reason the bodybuilding was hard because you do have to calorie constrict for a whole lot longer than we do
for a very long time. Yeah, you find yourself just looking at food and all that sort of stuff, which I still do, but I like looking at it from a recipe point of view rather than, oh my God, I just want to eat that. Don't get me wrong. There's every now and again during the weight cut I'll look at it and go, oh my God, I just want a chocolate. I just want a piece of chocolate. I want a picnic. I want some cake. But it's not as like crazy as bodybuilding, the restrictive calories. Why did you choose Mayhem as your fight name? Well, first of all, my middle name is Mayema, Meiema. That was my main reason. Mili Mayhem. And yeah, I guess I just wanted to embody that.
You like Mili May was was a thing, as in halving Mayhem. So Mili Mayhem wasn't that big a stretch, I guess.
Yeah. So Mili Mayhem. My middle name is Mayhem. Mayhem ties into being a combat athlete.
Mayhem to me is like I term it as controlled chaos.
Yeah.
Chaos is something we have no control over. It's just, it's everywhere. Mayhem to me is we come to create mayhem.
Yeah.
So that's also how I liked it. Not that it was my choice, but from a boxing point of view, I kind of like that idea of being a controlled chaos.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That's cool. All right, this one could be for both of us. How do I stick to a fitness program? I'm approaching 40. I'm not fat, but I'm in no way in shape either. I don't eat unhealthily, but I know I probably eat more than I should, and I don't exercise. I walk the dog for about 30 minutes every day, and it's such a slow walk because my baby's getting a bit old now. Aww. So this, I'm asking questions that were solely directed to me, but I think we can both answer this one.
I'll start with a point of view that I don't exercise a lot either, to be fair, nowhere near what I should. I am a workaholic around the things that I do, so I get so invested in, and I'll put all my time into the things that we're trying to do, which are pretty big at the moment. But I exercise inadvertently in the sense that I go and trek Kokoda half a dozen times a year. I'll go to Mount Kilimanjaro this year. I'll go to Everest Base Camp this year. I'll do Aussie 10. So they're fairly active. So obviously a lot of muscle memory going on there. I don't actually overeat, I don't think. Like I tend to portion control myself pretty well, and in fact I probably eat more since I've been with you than I've ever eaten, because I would normally eat 2 meals a day typically, just because I am so busy doing the stuff, and whereas eating for us is a bit more social. Like we love to go to lunch together, and every time we do it, we say we won't do it for the rest of the week, and we do but we like that time together. So carving out, this is a separate thing, but carving out personal time is really important for us outside of the work. So for me, and then when they say approaching 40, it does get harder if you don't have any background in it. And you do need to start to find some way of fitting in some level of ancillary exercise. Like even for me, just holding focus pads for fighters, that's quite physical. The sweat, and you're a lot faster than I am, so to be able to do what we do takes a bit of work. But mostly for me, I just don't overeat, to be honest.
Sticking to something would always come down to your why for me. Why are you doing it? What is going to change in your life if you do it, and what's not going to change in your life if you don't do it? So, you say you're not fat, but you're not in shape either. You could get overweight, so that could be a reason.
Let's be really clear. It's not about being fat. It's about how you feel. I'll often, when I was running the gyms, I'd say to people, I'm not really that concerned with what you look like on the scales. Like I've had people, particularly women, who will say, like, I've dropped 2 dress sizes, but my weight hasn't changed. Well, I think the 2 dress sizes is more important.
Yeah,
because you're probably going to feel better, and you might look better in your eyes, wherever you're trying to look better in front of. But you're looking at a number on the scales. Yeah. And I'll say, how do you feel? Oh, I feel fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, why wouldn't that be our metric?
Yeah. Being overweight does come with health risks. I will say that. So you could get there if you don't start doing something. So that's going to be a consequence of not changing something in your life.
Certainly in your 40s and 50s, which I can talk to, and you can't just yet, but it's... I'm
going to be 29 for the next 29 years.
You'll always be younger than me. So there are definitely health issues that start to come in. There are definitely, and finding time. And I work with people that are busy, that are middle-aged, so that 45 to 55, who are out of shape, and they can work really hard, and they're really driven, and they've got successful businesses, and they do all the things. But I say to them, if you have a stroke, if you have an episode, if you're put in hospital for a month, what happens to your business? And then people go, literally it would stop, because a lot of what I do is in here. And okay, well, one part of what I do as a business, when I business coach people, we need to build other people that know the stuff. But also, what if we could just get your health a bit better? And so I do offer ancillary things to people. So I'll say, what if every day you did an hour walk? And it doesn't have to be before or after work. What if it was at lunchtime? And if you're a real workaholic, which a lot of people are, what if you whacked the headphones in and you made some phone calls while you're out on that walk? Or I've advised people to take staff members out on that walk, and have chats with them about stuff. It's if you look up your Richard Bransons, none of us are busy or as busy as them. And they're really successful because they will find ways to do things. And Richard Branson's famous for doing walking meetings, because he is about health. And so he'll do 3 or 4 hours a day sometimes, 3 or 4 different meetings where he walks with people and talks about stuff.
Nice.
So that's a really interesting way of doing things.
I like that. Yeah. I like that. My advice for this question would be Write down why you're doing it, what is going to change in your life if you do stick to a fitness program, and what is not going to change or get worse in your life if you don't stick to a fitness program. Write down all the times that you have tried to stick to a fitness program and why you didn't stick to the fitness program. So, and be brutally honest with yourself, be it I was lazy. That could be a reason in itself. And then if that's the person that you want to show up as for the rest of your life, then continue being lazy. But if it's not, then you're going to have to change something. You're going to have to go back to why you want to do the things and what positive change that's going to come from.
I like the future pacing, which is what we're talking about there. Whereas if I don't change anything in my life, physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever the thing that's going on in your life, and what does life look like in 5 years' time and in 10 years' time? And if that scares the hell out of you, then change something.
Yeah.
Because particularly when it comes to our health, it's not going to get better by doing nothing. It's going to get worse.
Yeah.
So you're not maintaining. You're either moving forward or moving backwards. So that's an important one. But the other thing I'll say around exercise, because I deal with a lot of busy business people or anything to health related, you've got to put as few amount of steps as possible between you and the thing you want to do. So by that I mean, if I'm going to exercise in the morning and I know that I struggle to get out of bed in the morning, I would advise you to lay all your clothes out. Because what happens is you wake up and you hit the snooze and you hit the snooze and you hit the snooze, and then you start looking at the clock and go, I haven't got time now. My clothes. If you're a male, your clothes are in the wardrobe. If you're a female, they could be in the washing basket or they're somewhere. And I've got to go through and I've got to find my undies, I've got to find my shorts, I've got to find my socks. Whereas if all that was laid out, you're one step closer to succeeding at the thing. I dealt with a good friend of mine who's also a good client years ago during COVID, and he's a former professional athlete. He's in his 50s. He's a big guy, so he can get away with carrying weight, but he was getting unhealthy. And he said, the big thing I found was I like a wine to unwind. He's got a good successful business. I like a wine or two to unwind. And inevitably, he'd find himself eating a bag of chips. He says, I don't remember going to the cupboard to get the bag of chips. I'm just eating the bag of chips. And so I said to him, well, put more steps. So where I said put least amount of steps between you and what you want to achieve, the activity you want to stop, put more steps. So I'd say to him, don't have chips and stuff in the house. In fact, don't even put wine in the house. Just buy it when you want it. So now you've got to get in your car. You've got to drive down to the servo to buy a bag of chips.
Yeah, don't put yourself in that situation.
So there's you've got a lot of time there to go, oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? I don't want to do that. Whereas he's watching TV, having his wine, and he realises I'm through a bag of chips. I don't remember getting me out of the pantry. And that sounds crazy, but that's what happens. So any activity you want to stop doing, put more steps between you and it.
Yeah,
any activity you want to get better at, put least steps. If you know that you keep hitting the snooze alarm, don't use a phone and don't use a watch. Use an old school $15 from Kmart alarm clock and put it on the other side of the room.
Beep, beep,
yeah.
beep.
And if
and
your partner doesn't want to get up at that time in the morning, she's going to make sure you get out of bed real quick.
Yeah. Go and turn that
You're going to be
bloody
too scared.
alarm off.
Like, you know, I would hate to wake you up at a time you didn't want to be woken up, right? I'm not saying Mili doesn't wake up well, but I would hate to do that. If you are not choosing to be up at 3 and I wanted to be up at 3 and I knew that alarm, I reckon I'd turn it off before it went off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just that's just a tip from me.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, this next one is a little bit more personal. Would you love to get married again and have more children? You're an amazing person. Thank you. Yeah.
That was on your...
That was towards me. Yeah. I'd love to get married again. Do you?
Thank you. Well, we've talked about it.
We have spoken about it, yeah.
And
so
I remember, after going through a divorce and all of the stuff that happens, I remember saying I would never do any of that again because I was always somebody who never thought I'd get married in the first place. And then I met you. And then all of a sudden I was like, I wouldn't mind having another child. Now, people at 52 would judge the hell out of me for that. I don't mind. I would love to have a child with you, if that's possible. And we don't know if that's possible. You're not in a hurry for that.
No, because I keep saying 5 years and then
And we've been together a couple of years now, and that 5 years is still 5 years. And I'm getting older, but I feel good. I would not bring a child into the world who I thought I wasn't physically capable of spending that first 15 or 20 formative years with. But I don't feel that at the moment. So, and I'm not locked on having the child thing because... I love our boys, your boys, and Christian, which we term our boys, and they get on famously. And it's challenging. Christian refers to them as his brothers because he's never
Yeah.
had brothers,
Yeah.
and that's pretty cool. And I know one of my daughters had an issue with that once because Christian kept saying his brothers. And she said, "Oh, it's not really his brothers." I said, "Well, it is because he lives with them and he loves that they're his brothers, and he talks about that, and he will talk to them on the phone, and they're super respectful with him, which is pretty cool." So if we didn't have children, we're going to be okay as in our own because of what we've got. I don't view. I hope I don't come across ever that they're not my boys.
You don't.
So, which is good. And don't make me cry. So, so from that point of view, do I want to get married? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would get married to you in a heartbeat.
Aw,
and I know that
love you.
day will come to us, and I want it to be memorable when it comes. And one of the first things that you said to me when we got together is, do not come into my life and I want to cry, do the wrong thing by the boys.
Love you, baby.
And so I take that pretty seriously because, they're good young men that don't deserve to have bad people in their lives.
No.
So whoever
Everyone's
asked it-
crying. Oh my God. Happy Monday.
But anyway, so I take that role of fathering very seriously, and I haven't always nailed it with the boys first up, but we're getting to know each other, and I feel like we're there. Just the other night, we're laying on the bed, and the boys were both in wrestling and jumping on me, and you were like trying to do something, and you were like, "Can you boys please go?"
Can the lot of you just go over there and wrestle?
And what I loved about it is that they both kept saying to me, "Come on, let's go out and have boy time together." And
They're going, Mum's kicked us all out. You have to come too.
And I thought that was pretty cool that they wanted us to have boy time together because they haven't always had good male role models, to be fair.
No.
We haven't talked about this, but you've had domestic violence in your life, and they have witnessed some of that, and they've remembered some of that. And I just want them to understand how a man should treat a woman and vice versa. And I feel like we're nailing that. So someone that asked last week about public displays of affection on my social media, which I don't know what you're talking about, but we definitely do that in front of the boys. They should see their mum being loved and being lovable, and then they're going to learn how to treat women if they're into women when they get older or whatever, how they're going to learn how to treat partners by the way I show up. And I am a big man, and I understand that. And so, all those things I think about all of those things. I wouldn't have come into Millie's life at the level I have if I hadn't already felt that there was something very deep there, because I was at an age where, particularly when I turned 50, where I don't want to have another relationship because I don't want to go through all that process. And there was just something about you on day one, really, that I didn't realise at the time. There was an energy, and I would not have got to where we're at now if it wasn't. I'm not here to muck you around. I've said I'm not here to make your life worse. So, I would love to get married, and we have talked about it.
I'm going to wrap it up on the questions there because we did get a lot of statements, a lot of questions. There were a lot are based around our relationship, but that's another podcast, so we'll leave that for another podcast. Just otherwise, these podcasts will go on for so long. And we'd love you to keep listening in on Mayhem Mondays and every day that you bring out a podcast. So and
I want people to feel some level of personal development out of what we talk about. We are raw. This is real life. We're not hiding anything from you. Excuse me, we don't edit anything out. It is what it is.
It is what it is, yeah.
And as long as you guys are getting something from it, we'll keep doing it. So because I think you're amazing, obviously.
Thank you.
And I say that to you, but I say obviously for people listening, I see a side of you that other people are only just starting to glimpse now. And good people who are close to us have messaged me and wow, we love her energy and what she's about. And I say this, and you see this stuff written on social media, but I feel like you could search multiple lifetimes and universes to find each other, and that's what happens. So that's why I don't care about age gap and all the things people talk about, because we align on so many things.
So many things.
That why do I want to deny
It's absolutely
that?
insane, actually.
We could live a personal life and not show anyone any of that stuff. But then one thing I always promise myself is I'd be authentic and real about who I am and how I am, and I'm navigating life like everybody else as we go, as I am.
Just having a go at life.
So keep the questions coming.
Yeah.